Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm founder and CEO Jim West, and I have a wonderful guest today. I always have a wonderful guest. It's just every episode is there's no exceptions, but this particular guest, we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast Gwendolyn Vongkasemsiri, and she is a security assurance expert with Microsoft. So, Gwen, we're just going to call you Gwen if you don't mind. But welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, definitely just call me Gwen.
Okay. So, Gwen, let's talk a little bit about doing security assurance for one of the biggest businesses on the planet. I mean, Microsoft, it touches everything in our lives, right? I usually joke where everybody, every profession touches a computer, and about maybe 8 to 9 out of 10 of those computers are going to be running Microsoft or at least connecting to an app or a cloud or some service that Microsoft provides to the world. So, it must be a very daunting challenge to work security for a company like that. But can you give us maybe like a really high level view and perspective of what the mission that you do and you support?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on the MORS team, which stands for Microsoft Offensive Research and Security Engineering. And what we mainly do is we secure platform and platform components. And Microsoft has a lot of different platforms. Um, and one of the main things that we try to do is catch vulnerabilities before like they ever or even in the design phase or before they even get
Mhm.
released. And I think one of the really big things about working for Microsoft is you're impacting so many people like worldwide. Like it has this massive impact. And so we had to be very careful and very intentional with everything that we do and like what we decide to prioritize. And I think me, like being much newer at my job, I started 6 months ago as a security assurance, and it's kind of a crossover between kind of a like technical security PM role and like operational
Mhm.
help with whatever needs to be done. And a lot of communication goes into my role, and a lot of working with tech leads, working with other PMs, and things like that. And we all work together to try to, I guess, fix the worst, fix the highest risk things, like the highest priority things that we can do in order to help Microsoft's customers be secure.
I love one of the words you said early on in your statement there about being intentional, right? We hear a lot about the principle of baking security in as early in the process as possible instead of waiting till it's already out in the wild and the customers have got complaints or
Yes.
they're being exposed to that vulnerability. So I love the idea of aggressively being intentional to catch those big bad, patches and bugs and vulnerabilities before it becomes out into production. But I love that word intentional. Could you maybe give us like what a day in the life of your job is like when you're being intentional and having to really be on your A game almost every day?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say one of the things that you mentioned too is that Microsoft really puts a really big emphasis on is a shift left. You want to shift left security as far as possible. So we're trying to shift it left, like even into like the IDE if we can, like some PR time stuff, which it gets harder the more you try to shift it left because, first of all, you still want the developers to have a good experience with security.
Mhm.
And second of all, it like the tooling is harder to implement the further shift to left it is usually.
Mhm.
And it's like how aggressive do you want the tooling to be? Like how aggressive do you want it to come out? So it's been really interesting working with that and seeing the differences that Microsoft has made in just like my team and platform components and shifting left to security in those and trying to get developers to have a security mindset and just fix them earlier. Because another thing with the Windows code flow, especially, and also other code flows, but especially Windows code flow, is that if you don't have a bug filed on you till let's say the main like the code gets pushed like all the way up to the like main branch or something, and then the bug is held on you. That's probably going to be like months later, and you're gonna have forgotten what you were doing, and you're going to be like really mad that you have to go back and fix it. So we try to improve the developer experience by giving them some ways to catch those bugs early, although we can
Mhm.
we can follow on them early, and so then they'll still be in that mindset of just having written that code, for example. And I think that's a really helpful way to do that. So a day in my life right now would be working with whoever my tech lead is. I actually just switched from a team that is doing static analysis. Well, I'm on the same team, but a sub team within the team.
Mhm.
We were doing static analysis tooling, and they actually ended up moving outside of the Morse team, my team, because their scope got too big because they wanted to expand static analysis tooling to like even more than what Morse did. So they actually moved outside of Morse, and I'm now on the green team, which is the risk and mitigation team. So we do a lot of work with finding, we with mitigating vulnerabilities and exploits that other people find, and especially we what we try to prioritize is we try to help with risk and we rate things by risk, and then we try to figure out like what is this vulnerability, like this one is specifically really bad, and how long will it take us to do, and we prioritize things accordingly, and then we can create mitigations for those. And some of these mitigations take like 5 years to finish, like to completely roll out because of all the testing you have to do and
Yeah.
because of just how broad it is. And sometimes like you have to like just the rollout, it'll take years because you have to involve all these third parties too, because Microsoft works with so many people, so you have to make sure it's compatible with everything and that everyone
Yes.
else has to also update things, and it gets really complicated. So that's a lot of what I help with
Mhm.
on my
It's
team.
almost
Is I
like a
help with
game of software Jenga, right? Where if you try to,
yeah,
put something here and move something here, you're always risking the whole thing falling down because of all the different people and the components that have to make it up. I think
right.
Microsoft has got a lot of, a lot of street cred with how they've approached rapid software development. Back in, I think it was the mid 90s, they did the continuous software improvement where they would put out a functional product and they would spend aggressive amount of time releasing like service packs, is what it used to be called, like service pack one, so SP2,
Yes,
SP2,
yes.
and they still do, almost weekly updates on some of their products because they're constantly trying to improve and keep all the software secure, which is great for a company to always be on top of it. A lot of companies, it's just they fire it out and then they forget about it and you lose support, but not Microsoft. They got to be top of the game globally because of the amount of customers they impact around the world. But another thing they also did really, really well is, and I know they collaborate with like Google and all the other social media companies. They do these bug hunting competitions, right? So you're a part of an internal team trying to find those bugs before it goes out. But are you part of any of the third party or outside things that are work to report bugs back?
Yeah, so my team actually is very internal. So the team that does work with bug bounties and externally, that's MSRC, which is the Microsoft Security Response Center, and they do a lot of really awesome work with like interacting with bug bounty people, and they hosted like actually a thing very recently for people who are like the top vulnerability researchers for Microsoft, and they host a lot of events. My team, we are very internal. If you hear about us doing something, it's like usually not too much, because we try to catch everything beforehand,
Hmm.
and it's very proactive versus reactive. And so my team is not too involved with the bug bounty stuff. I think what we do is we will sometimes help write fixes with bug bounties. We will also analyze the trends of
Hmm.
the MSRP cases to see like what we can prioritize and what we can fix. And additionally, like what we can, for example, static analysis, like we're trying to analyze the trends of MSRC data and see like, okay, if like could these fixes have been prevented with static analysis? And if so, like what and how can we
Hmm.
implement that? So we do a lot of work like with them that way. We do like work closely with many security teams. There's so many different security teams at Microsoft, but my team specifically does not interact with, I guess, the outside world in that way.
Okay.
So,
So someone watching this right now, let's say someone's learning about, quality assurance, software assurance, and in that respect, and they're learning about these two acronyms they're going to hear right off the jump. It's going to be SAST and DAST, right? We got static, security testing, and we got dynamic. And best practice says you should do a mixture of both, right? But from the perspective
absolutely.
of your team, what do you feel is more advantageous out the gate earlier in the process, at least for the products that you guys are supporting?
Absolutely, yeah. So with static analysis, that it can be done at any point, basically.
Hmm.
Like it can be done while you're writing your code, right? Like you could have, for example, like AI suggestions, like in the IDE, like as you're typing, being like, "Hey, like might not be secure." Versus dynamic analysis, we have is we do a lot of fuzzing, for example, which is
Hmm.
dynamic analysis, and what that does is like you have to have a compiled something
Hmm.
for that to run, and so for that reason, the static analysis can definitely be shifted much further left than dynamic
Hmm.
analysis, because for dynamic analysis to work, like you have to have everything like actually compiled so that you can run stuff against it and like see what happens when you give it different inputs and outputs. And the way that Microsoft does it, they have like a fuzzing platform, and then developers will actually most of the time will write their own fuzzers. So because we aren't able to write fuzzers for everyone,
Hmm.
but the security team will definitely help with some buzzers, like where necessary, and maybe like highly specialized buzzers for specific things. But we try to give them a platform, which my team also runs, where they can actually write their own buzzers and we can help them with that. So it's been really interesting to see. I'm not directly involved with the sub team that does buzzing, but I know a lot of the work I do and it's really awesome. So
Excellent. A lot of folks when they hear about, doing the different testing and so forth, and then, at some point we have to address the elephant in every tech room, and that's AI, right? So when it comes to
yes.
leveraging the power of AI to help and augment either a team like yours or multiple different teams, like whether they're designing and coding or doing, software assurance, security assurance, where do you see, and again, this might not be directly related to the work you do at Microsoft, but from your vantage point, do you see AI growing in this space when it comes to helping make software more secure?
Oh, absolutely. Like it's becoming huge right now. It's actually pretty insane. Just in the last like week or two, the stuff I've seen with security and AI and what we started doing with it, it's actually it's a little scary.
Yeah.
um, but I don't know if you know about the DARPA AI XCC competition. Yeah, the team that won is Team Atlanta. They're called Team Atlanta, and Microsoft actually hired almost all of their team. And my team has been working with some people from there to create some really cool I guess like vulnerability research, AI security things
Yeah.
that are very powerful. They seem to be very powerful. And they're working on creating some customized ones that are specifically work for like what Microsoft does. And this is really crazy because it would allow like vulnerability research to scale to like massively or like a fraction of the cost.
Yes.
And um, I am not sure what that means exactly for people who are currently like vulnerability researchers, for example. But I'm hoping that what it will do is it will free them up to do the more important work and the more specialized work. Versus right now, they have to spend a lot of time doing, work that could be done by an AI, which is very like busy, work that has to be done in VR. A lot of the like for example, the original stage, like the recon stage, where you're just like looking over everything, like AI can do that in like 20 seconds. And if you give it context, like it will um it's pretty crazy what it can do. I've been really impressed by what I've seen, which is very little as of now. But like with the plans to build security into AI, I think it's going to be like is going to be huge. It's going to be interchangeable. I think I just the Mythos preview has also come out. I'm sure you've seen stuff about that. I'm not sure because they haven't actually released it how good it is,
Okay.
but but I do think that security is going to, I guess, fundamentally change. I was also talking to someone from the another security team recently, and they do more like red teaming work, and they're like, yeah, this is going to completely change like how we do red teaming. Like red teaming is still going to be a thing, but it's going to very much change in the way that we use like agentic workflows and stuff to help us and to make things way faster. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see. I'm not an expert in this at all, but I'm both excited and also a little bit apprehensive of what's to come with AI and security.
All right. Well said. So I'd like to kind of, I know you're still kind of what I would say in the really, first couple of chapters of your career, because I know you got
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
much more in your career ahead of you. Whereas someone like me, I'm a dinosaur. I got so much, behind me, miles behind me. But what I want to ask is if we go back in time to the day one, when you made the decision to go into tech, IT, cyber, like, hey, this is what I want to do as a career. Is there a story there that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually 16, and I was in this cadet program called the Civil Air Patrol, which I highly recommend to anyone in high school. It's a really awesome program. It is the civilian auxiliary of the Air Force, and it's kind of like JROTC. They will teach you leadership, drill, aerospace, all of this character development, all of this really helpful things. I think that really helped shape me and the future person I became. But anyway, the reason I first started with them was because I wanted to be a pilot professionally. But then I did this program through them. It was called CyberStart. And unfortunately, the broad program has been discontinued, which I'm so sad about because it
Oh,
was such a
no.
good program. Yeah, it was called CyberStart America, and they released it to like everyone. But this was before that. It was just 3 months long, and it was open to all the Air Force JROTC and Civil Air Patrol cadets. And it was a CTF. And I'd never done the CTF before. I didn't really know what cybersecurity was, but there was like a prize. It was like, oh, if you place in the top three, you'll get like a headset or a laptop. And I was like, I don't have a laptop. I would like one. So I was like, I'm gonna like try really hard to do this competition. Even though I had no idea what it was about. So I started off doing it and I was really bad at it. Like I had no idea what I was doing, you know. I was doing these challenges and I'm just like, okay, like I was Googling every 2 seconds. But I feel like I like the way that it did not give me all the answers. You know, I
Hmm.
think some cybersecurity platforms nowadays, they give people a little bit too many answers, you know. I think people should have to, you know, go down a few rabbit holes in Google to find things. Although now with AI, you know, so it's that's but that's kind of a little bit gone too. But I thought it really gave me a really good foundation, and it helped me fall in love with CTFs because I like got addicted to those. Like
Hmm.
I got so addicted to CTFs. After that, I went on to do more and more competitions. I did all sorts of CTFs on a lot of different teams. I kept doing it in college, and I basically after that competition, I was like, "This is so fun!" And I think cybersecurity is what I want to do, and that replaced me wanting to be a pilot. So
Wow. So
it was
it
a
was
pretty,
the challenges of the
interesting
CTFs
thing.
and trying to
Yeah.
figure them out that made you say, this is it for me. I love this. I love that story.
Yes, I literally spent like the entire like 3 months just working on that, and I ended up getting second. So I did ended up getting one of the prizes, which is really fun.
Well,
But I
congrats.
think thank you. It turned out to be a really bad laptop, so it didn't even work that well. But
So
it's really
speaking of competitions, you're also associated with the U.S. Cyber Team. Can you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, yeah. So I've actually been associated with the US Cyber Games program in some way since the very beginning of season one, and I was 17 at the time. And I got this email from the NSA Codebreaker. And NSA Codebreaker is a competition that the NSA runs every year. And if your school can score like high in it, then you will they'll like come to your school and they'll like give talks in your class about why you should work for the NSA. But anyway, um, I was actually in high school at the time, but I had a but I think I still had a school email to do enrollment, although I believe now they let anyone register. I think you don't have to be in college technically anymore. But anyway, I got an email that was just blasted to all of the participants, and it said, "Hey, there's this new program called the U.S. Cyber Games," and I was like, "Oh, CTF! I should probably do the CTF," you know. So I immediately was interested. Also sent it out to some of my friends who I was like CTFing with online, which at this point I was in high school, so I didn't know anyone in person who was like doing CTFs. Like everyone I knew was through like online, through like
Yeah.
Discord servers, cybersecurity related things. So but that was another huge thing when I actually got to college and started working and started meeting people, and I was like, this is so cool, like in person people who do the same things I do.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, so I got started that way, and I did the CTF. I think I placed decently well in it. I got invited to um, the like second stage, and then I think I was in like the it used to be called the Accelerated Training Program, but now it's called the Pipeline Program. I think the
Okay.
first year, and then I was on the team the second year, and then I've been either on one or the other of some of their teams ever since then, and it's been a lot
Awesome.
of fun. So
Awesome.
they do let you like travel internationally and stuff. So
That's really cool to get to travel. In
uh,
your career so far, from 16 to now, I'm sure in this short amount of time, though, you've had some really influential people in along your career this far. So the goal of this question is kind of shine a light. Think of it as getting your Oscar, and you're trying to think of all the names to say thank you to. But so, is there folks that either managers, directors, colleagues, coworkers, online people that have helped challenge you, inspire you, and motivate you in your career so far that you like to shine a light on their names? And of course, there's never enough
absolutely.
time to give all the names in the world. You won't be able to
Right.
remember them
Yeah,
all.
that's the
But is there a
problem.
few people you'd like to say, you know what, this professor, this boss, this colleague, they've been tremendous so far, a positive impact on me?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say honestly, a lot of my friends in who like I met in high school and carried through college, who were really good at CTFs, like were some of my best supporters in all, which is really amazing. But in for professors, I would say the professors at Dakota State, which is where I went, Dakota State University, they're really impressive because all of them or most of them I think have multiple times gotten much higher like paid job offers because you know they're at DSU in the middle of nowhere South Dakota. They don't get paid all that much, but they're there because they love what they do, and I'm really grateful to a lot of the professors. I think one of the coolest professors I know was like Andrew Kramer. He taught my assembly class and then also my software exploitation class later on, and he is just incredible. I also there's so many professors there, so I don't want to like go into all of them, but they're like the professors at DSU in general. The cybersecurity professors are really amazing. They're also really willing to like sit down with their students and actually get to know them and like what they think about different things, and I don't know, like actually explore their minds, which is really cool. I remember I also had one teacher. Actually, this was the guy I took assembly with. I took assembly with this. I don't think he teaches this class anymore, but Bailey Belisario. And I accidentally like fork bombed the server in the middle of his class, and it was really bad, and I was like so scared. So then I messaged Andrew Kramer, who's the other professor who actually ran the server that we were doing our homework on, and it was like 5 minutes before class, and then the entire server went down for like everyone. I was like, oh, because I accidentally ran it. I was like messing around with other stuff in class, and I like ran it in the wrong terminal context window. um, so yeah, that was really bad, but he was so nice about it. And he basically said that he didn't mind that this had happened in his class, even because he was like, you know, it shows that my students are having the hacker mindset they need to succeed in cybersecurity. And even if that ends up with me losing some of my class time at the very end, with the server going down until it had to be restarted, that he was like it's okay with me, right? Like that shows that my students are doing what they are meant to do later on, which will help them succeed in the workforce. And so I feel like having professors like that who actually support you, I feel like a lot of professors would have been very mad at
Yeah.
that. So I'm so grateful that I have like actual supportive professors um, in times like that. And he was also like, "Oh, and you're also not the first person who has done this."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it just shows great
um,
minds think alike, right?
right. And then I think Andrew also, he was like, oh, I think I fixed it now. Like, that shouldn't have happened in the first place, shouldn't have been able to happen. And if you're ever, like, if you ever see that no one's logged into it, let me know and we can test it again. So I feel like it's a very different environment from what a lot of schools professors' reactions would have been. So I really appreciate them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then a really quick shout out to just my current team and my current manager, Kung Su Gallon. He is amazing. Like he is just, he's so cool. And additionally, a lot of my coworkers, especially the ones who helped me during my internship, um, like they have been incredible in just mentoring. I feel like one thing that I really value at Microsoft is they really listen and value and try to bring up the like younger people, because in some I've been in some environments where it's like, oh, you know, you're not old enough like to like sit down, like, you know, be more quiet. But I feel like Microsoft has this culture where they really try to like bring up and listen, like they are like, you are the future, you are the next generation, and they really actually invest into you, which I really appreciate. So
That's awesome. That's a great culture to be part of. It's something when you think about your teams and all the people that have such positive impacts on your trajectory through life. And sometimes it could just take one person, and sometimes it could take 20. But everybody's important to somebody in life, and so it's just powerful when you see how these people intersect. Like that professor that could have chastised you, could have really just been angry, and might have shut you down from even wanting to express and explore and to keep hacking away. But he inspired and he encouraged that. And then that's just the power of educators, right? And good mentors. So thank you for highlighting those folks. Because again, a lot of times, we have to take a moment to really take stock of all those people that have made our lives possible, right? In our careers. So I like to take a moment in the podcast where we kind of take a time out from the tech speak for a moment and just have what I call my moment of levity, where I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. It's just for fun and levity. There's no right or wrong answer. So if you'll humor me, I'm going to fire them away. First answer pops in your head, just blurt it out. You ready?
absolutely, absolutely.
First one out the gate, cake or pie?
Ooh, okay, I love pie. I'm gonna have to go with
What
pie.
kind of pie?
I really like apple pie,
Hot or
but
cold apple pie?
pumpkin pie is a close second. I would say honestly, I feel like cold apple pie is slightly better,
Wait,
but
which
I
one?
also love pie. I think cold apple pie, which is
Cold
very
apple pie?
controversial,
Okay.
but
All right.
yeah,
Next, keeping with the foods, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I think a hot dog can be classified as a sandwich,
Can be
but I'm
classified as a
not
sandwich.
sure
You
because
heard it
you
from an
know,
expert with Microsoft. A hot dog's a sandwich. All right. This one's going to split
oh
every
no,
tech room. Every tech conference in the world is going to be 50-50 on this. So here we go. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek,
Star Trek.
all the way, the
Which
old
crew or
Star Trek,
series of Star Trek are you the biggest fan of?
the oldest one. But I
Oh, the
also really like,
OG
yeah, I really
with
like the
with
OG.
Kirk,
That's my favorite of
Spock,
all time.
Sulu.
Yes,
Awesome,
yes.
awesome. What was your favorite character on Star Trek?
Spock.
Spock. Okay, Leonard
I
Nimoy.
love
Yeah,
Spock.
he's one of the greatest. He's the Yoda of the Star Trek. And I know I just made a lot of
Yes.
Star Trek people mad. So, what has been your favorite book of all time that you've read, and what was the last book that you've read?
Okay, so my favorite book of all time, the trilogy, is The Lord of the Rings. I love
Okay.
that trilogy. It's my favorite ever. I am a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. As for the last book I read, I haven't finished reading it yet, but I'm actually reading this book right here. It's called The Cards Is Down, and it was actually written by a guy at Microsoft who gave me a
Oh,
copy recently. And I don't think it's been like fully published yet, but it's really cool.
okay.
And the guy who wrote it, he is the manager of one of the teams that we closely work with, but he has experience working at Blue Origin, and I think he like owned the software for like the rocket boosters or something. So
Wow.
he has a lot of experience to write this space sci-fi book, and I haven't gone too far into it yet, but I think it's really cool so far.
Well, if it is available publicly, if you'd give me the link to that book, we'll put it in the description below so we can save people watching that Google
Absolutely, I don't
search.
think it's available publicly yet, but I
Oh,
will ask
goodness.
him. I
Well,
will
you know
ask
what?
him.
At some point in the future, when I get that published link, I'll make sure we update the description. So maybe by the time this video
Awesome,
comes out, we'll have
awesome.
it publicly. Well, let's dive right back into one of the other groups that you've been associated with, called CyberHer, HER
Yeah.
CAP, and you're a leader for that organization. Could you talk a little bit about what is their mission and what are they trying to do in the world?
Yes, I will say just like, for clarification, I'm not currently a leader. This is something that I mainly work for them in college, but they are this really cool organization. They were started by two of the main female leaders at my college, and it's kind of like a version of WESIS.
WESIS is a
And what
wonderful
we do,
organization.
yes, amazing organization. Yes, I was actually just at a chapter meeting with them yesterday, and it was so cool to meet them. They're actually restarting the Western Washington affiliate right now, so
Okay.
it's really good to see. Um, but yeah, so Cyber, um, play on words. It was created with the mission to help young girls get into cybersecurity, and one of the main things that they focus on is like really like younger girls, like K through 12 girls,
Hmm.
because I think there's a study done. This might be wrong, so do not. Maybe I shouldn't quote this, but it said that once a woman is like in high school, I think like a junior or something, like she's already decided like whether or not someone would be a good fit for her. So you have to get them interested in it early. You know, you have to show that it's something that they can
Yes.
do. So we would go to schools and like middle schools, some high schools, and we also host like free cybersecurity camps every single year on my school's campus, which like anyone can go to. They're completely free, and they will literally just teach you cybersecurity in a fun and engaging and educational way for kids. And any school in the area could also like request us to go there and like give
Hmm.
presentations. We would go and we would do stuff with like robots, you know, we would do stuff with cryptography, ciphers, you know, all this stuff just to get them interested in the field and know it as a possibility so that they can do it later. And this is not just for girls, like we would do this for the whole classroom, you know, not just the
Yeah.
girls in the classroom. Um, but it is very focused on especially helping young girls get into it. And another thing I really did actually was I got to help recruit a lot of really amazing women and who were already in the cybersecurity field for these cyber podcasts, which are on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in those, you should definitely go check them out because there are some incredible women who have been on that podcast. But yes, Cyber is a truly incredible organization. They've done so much and they've impacted so many girls. And they also make more educational videos for that are like explaining cybersecurity concepts in like very simple terms. Um, so yeah, they're really cool.
Well, if I can get a link to that podcast, all their links and socials, I'll make sure they're in the
Absolutely,
description below.
absolutely.
But one of the things you talked about was there are lots and lots of studies on this. So back in
Mhm.
several years ago, the company always did a campaign hashtag like a girl, and in that
Mhm.
commercials, if you recall them or can look them up on YouTube, they would ask a young girl, "Can you show me what it's like to run like a girl?" And of course, the girl is running super fast. But then they asked a young adult lady to run like a girl, and of course,
I
she's
remember
running
seeing
all
it.
like the stereotype. And they were
Yeah.
proving the point of the studies that during puberty that something happens where the phrase like a girl becomes a negative and not a positive anymore. And it's that influence that also hampers the entry of women into STEM, or now it's the acronym is STEAM, but the STEM
Mhm.
careers, the engineering, science, technology, mathematics careers, that's a kind of a daunting thing because stereotypically it's been perceived as mostly a male dominated field. But what I
Mhm.
will say is, I'm also an author, and so I wrote a
Very
middle grade.
cool. I did see that.
Yeah, so I wrote the Magic Mathematica series to help inspire all kids of young ages, but particularly I have a female protagonist modeled after my own two daughters, to
That's
that
amazing.
uses her brain and uses mathematics to solve problems in the world in the context of the fantasy story she's in. So I usually tell people it's like not as good as Harry Potter from a JK is a much better writer than I am, but it's a story that for middle graders like sixth to eighth grade to understand that math is magical because math is what does everything in the world. But definitely a big supporter of more women in STEM, and I will say as far as like cybersecurity conferences that I've been at around the world that I've spoken at, and a lot of hackathons and other events that I'm seeing that it's wonderful to see women represented in these careers. Really, it's starting to really have a good foothold. And we need to have all people, all perspectives in cyber. When you mentioned Microsoft has a culture of really bringing in some young people, young perspectives, we need fresh perspectives because people like me, we get set in our ways as we get older, and so I might
You
miss
need a
something
mix. You
that
need a mix.
day one you come into office and go, hey, this doesn't look quite right. And we can start to analyze it and be like, hey, you're right. It doesn't matter the age, the credentials, race, skin, religion, none of that matters. All that matters is the eyes that can see the thing and help us analyze it, help us make it better. And so I love that Microsoft is leaning forward with a great culture. A lot of other tech companies do the same. And it's really good to see that because we live in a world where a lot of people, when they look for a job, they're like, I got to have a degree plus 10 years experience. Did that mean I had to start working when I was 12? You know? And so I get it that for a lot of people trying to break into cyber IT, it can be really daunting at first. But my challenge for anyone watching this video right now is that Gwen here is a great example of someone that really got lucky with a great company that's leaning forward in innovation and staying at the forefront of innovation. And all you got to sometimes do is keep searching and keep connecting with people, whether through conferences, through hackathons, through CTFs, and then you find your tribe of people and you network to where you're going to find the right opportunity. And like I said, there's a lot of companies still rooted in the old ways, but guess what? They're going to have to modernize at some point. So companies like Microsoft and a lot of companies in Silicon Valley and the tech sector, the West Coast, they're really forward thinking. I really appreciate them doing what they're doing, especially recruiting from colleges and universities across the U.S. So if you're sitting somewhere, connect with your local university, find your local groups in your area, and just start networking, and that can open up doors you can never imagine. So there's one more note I have here. You have some reverse engineering in your career portfolio there.
I
So
do.
for anyone watching right now, they might have heard the term reverse engineering. Lots of people might hear terms, but they make assumptions and they don't want to ever really deep dive or get to know really what that is. So can you first start us off at the highest level of what is reverse engineering, like reverse engineering 101, but maybe take us a little deeper down into a use case of where it really shines?
Absolutely, yeah. So reverse engineering was something that I really got into more in my senior year of high school and college. And what this is when you take maybe like some sort of compiled program and usually compiled. That's not actually not true. You can do reverse engineering on multiple types of languages that are not necessarily compiled. But the most common type that I do is where you take some sort of like compiled binary and you're trying to figure out what it does. And a lot of the times this really applies to like a malware analysis, right? So you have malware and you don't know what it is, you don't know what it's doing, and you have to reverse engineer it to figure out, how maybe how you can get this ransomware off your systems. And so what you have to do there is you have to figure out, because you cannot, it's basically a backwards coding, right? Because you usually like code something and you compile it and then it's like into this binary form, optimized by the compiler. And then with reverse engineering, what you're trying to do is you're trying to take that compiled optimized form and reverse it back into what you think was the original code. And no actual, decompiler tool can actually do this completely accurately. It will always be a guess. So it will always need, something else to come in and help it like actually figure out what's going on because it will never be fully accurate. Maybe like for very simple programs, but especially for something like malware, they usually purposely put lots of fun things in there that make it really hard to reverse engineer on purpose. um, so those can range from like putting things in like entries, dot entries versus just making really hard cryptography to break or just making a ton of stuff in within a binary that doesn't do anything that you like reverse engineer and you're like this doesn't even do anything, it was just here to distract me, but eventually everything can be reverse engineered, because it was originally one thing and there's always an answer.
Yeah.
So eventually, it literally anything can be reverse engineered. Although some people have spent years on just one thing doing that,
Yeah.
and I'm actually really interested to see how that works with AI in the future because actually there's a really big CTF competition called DICE CTF. It's run by the DICE team, which is one of the best CTF teams in the U.S. right now. And their last CTF, it's called DICE CTF. They run it every year, and their reverse engineering category, they had this reverse engineering category, like they always have one, right? They have one every year. This year, like you could use AI to solve all of them. AI could solve all of their reverse engineering challenges, which is insane.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see where reverse engineering goes with AI in that field. But
Awesome.
yeah.
And folks, when she's talking about having to like be a detective, right? Do that digital forensics work to look at the code and red herrings. The word I would use is obfuscation, where they kind of try to,
Yes.
hide things and
Yes.
confuse you and just throw you off because they're trying to evade detection. And that's what the hackers and attackers are trying to do is try to stay a step ahead of the folks that are trying to track them down and figure out what they're doing. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of great tools out there for doing work like that, but I gotta plug the folks over at CSI Linux. So if anyone out there wants to learn a great tool, it's a free distro. So a lot of folks heard of Kali Linux, which is
Oh,
the
nice.
offensive toolkit. So for the offensive folks toolkit, but if you want the defensive or the digital forensics toolkit, CSI Linux, they offer free. The first level of training is free. You got to pay for the rest because they got to keep the servers on and running and the domain going. But the first level training is free for CSI Linux, but what I would encourage people is download that distro. It's stacked with all the open source digital forensics tools. They pick the best of the best. And one of their top developers for the tool is named Irfan Tigzan. He's one of the best OSINT guys on the planet. So, folks, this is a shameless plug. I don't get paid anything from that group, but I'm really impressed by that tool set. And that link will be in the description below. So, Gwen, we're coming up almost on our time. So, my next question is, what is the goals and accomplishments and the things that you have planned for your 2026? Do we maybe have a website coming up, a tech magazine, newsletter? Are you going to be on a panel soon, a conference event? What is coming up in your 2026?
Yeah, honestly, I should really write out some goals. Like this is giving me the the wake up call. I don't really have anything written out, but I will say a couple things that I'm doing. I was actually on a panel yesterday at the Wheaties Washington affiliate, which was really fun. We were talking at UW to a lot of the students who were there, who are interested in cybersecurity, and additionally some other women from across Western Washington came in for that. And I was also on a panel recently about the Wicked Six conference, which is a virtual global cyber games conference, and it's mainly focused on women and non-binary and cybersecurity. So they actually had an attack defense competition, which is fully composed of only like all women slash everything else non-binary teams, and that was really fun to compete in. And they had teams from all over the world. So my team was composed of people from the U.S. like cyber games program, and we ended up getting second to Team Europe. So the European team. But it was very fun, and those European girls are really awesome. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. One thing that I do have coming up, if anyone is going to Blue Hat, I will be running the reverse engineering CTF village at Blue Hat, and
Okay.
so I'm very excited for that. We just finished making all the challenges for it, and we're now working on the logistics. So if anyone, yeah, I don't know if this will be released before that or not, but if it is,
Okay.
definitely come say hi. um, and yeah, I actually haven't told anyone that yet, so
Oh, okay.
outside of
Well, if you give
Microsoft.
me links to
So
all those events, I'll make sure they're in the
yeah, for
description.
sure.
So here's my next question. If someone's watching this right now, and I doubt I have that many young people watching, but just in case we have someone that's, under 18 years old and they're watching this and they made it this far with the attention span of young people these days. But let's say there's a young person watching right now. What is your message to that young boy or girl that's like, oh, I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough technical intuition, or I don't have that kind of mindset. I could never be or do that. What is your message to them?
Okay, so one thing I do want to say at the beginning of this is that, I hear a lot of people say, like, you don't have to be technical. And that is true. You do not have to be technical. However, it does help a lot. And the one thing about cybersecurity is you're supposed to have this lifelong learning mindset. And, the field is constantly evolving. And now even more so with AI. But you have to have, like, everything is constantly evolving. There are some fields you can work in where it's like you learn your job and you do that same job and it's not going to change, like, very much for like 40 years. In cybersecurity, you learn one thing and then the attacker evolves and then you upgrade. And it's always this like battle, right? It's literally a battle. And you have to keep evolving, otherwise you're not going to be at the forefront and the cutting edge of that battle. And so I think for anyone interested in cybersecurity, I think, first of all, don't be discouraged. I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning. I did get started earlier than some people. But it's first of all, it's never too late. I think I met a lot of people who think that it's too late for them to go into cybersecurity. And that is definitely not true. I know so many amazing people in cybersecurity
Hmm.
who are seniors now, like principals, who just transferred into it from something else, right? Like you do not have to have any sort of linear background. Like I think for me, I had a very kind of linear path, but that is not normal. I think most of the people I know did not have any sort of linear path. They had a very like they came from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts
Hmm.
of walks of life, and I think cybersecurity is you mainly just have to have this really big aptitude for learning and evolving and adaptability. I think adaptability is like huge in cybersecurity, and especially right now
Yes.
with AI. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people get discouraged when they think about like, oh, there's like no cybersecurity jobs. There's definitely cybersecurity jobs, and I will say, I'm not going to speak too much on cybersecurity job market because that's a whole nother,
Hmm.
whole nother nut to crack. But I will say that make sure that you have something that helps you stand out. So if you're a student, right? If you're a student, if you're a cybersecurity student, when you graduate, you're going to have a graduation on your resume. Everyone else is also going to have a graduation on their resume, right?
Hmm.
And this is something like this is not, it used to be you get a computer science degree and you get a job. That's not the case anymore. There's a lot of people here. You need to do something that makes you stand out. Whether that for me, it was mainly CTFs, whether that's running a cybersecurity club at your school, whether that's getting involved with your local, like anything chapters, right? It's having to do with cybersecurity, like WITAs, whether that's ISC2, whatever you have in your area. And um, you can also do like research, right? You can do your own research, even if you're not doing your own like full blown research or like with the professor or whatever. You can do like write ups, right? Put
Hmm.
something out there
Yep.
that is like with your name on it, right? I've been meaning to do this for a while and I haven't, but I think it would have helped a lot if I did like write ups of like the CDFs I've done, right? You can do write ups of anything. You do write ups of,
Hmm.
something you found interesting, right? It doesn't have to be something you did even. It can be
Yeah.
something that someone else did. One thing I'm trying to do right now actually is I've been making YouTube videos. I only made two so far before they try hack me advent of cyber. But I think if you could build a community somewhere, right? Whether
Hmm.
that's on your campus, whether that's online, whatever method you can, build some sort of community, build something that makes you different from other people because it is a competitive field. You are going to
Yes.
have to do something to stand out, whether that's research, whether that's CTFs, whether that's who knows,
Yeah.
and additionally, do not like you have to get internships. Like if you, I actually know of a friend at Microsoft right now, and he also graduated the same year as me, but he said that he actually delayed his graduation by a year because he wanted one more year to try to get like a big tech internship because he'd always wanted to work in big tech. And it worked. He got the internship. Once you have your foot in the door, that gives companies
Yep.
like they're like, oh, you interned here. Like that is your foot in the door. If you are a student, that is a huge opportunity for you to get internships. Like you have to be like trying so hard to get those internships. Like really talk to people at career fairs. And okay, I do have some things to say about career fairs I won't go into, but like make connections, get your way into these places. And although I will say, in big tech companies, I don't know any of the interns who got there by recommendation. All of us are cold appliers. So there's that. Like you cannot get into really big companies, as far as I know of, for internships. Um, with recommendations. But the people who I did know when I showed up and I met the Microsoft other security interns, and several of them, a lot of them, like a decent percentage of them actually, I already knew them because they were the people who I had worked with at my school because they were at other schools, but they were the people running their competition clubs. They're the people I'd
Mhm.
been competing against. you know? And that's the type of students that they're looking to hire, the ones who are out there, the ones who are doing things.
Mhm.
And so that was really funny because I was like, I already know like four
Well,
of
I
you
just want to
guys.
augment what you're saying because everything you said is absolutely 110% correct. But in that, the key word is taking the initiative and showing the drive because that's what they're
Yes,
hiring.
yes.
They're hiring the folks that are going to take the initiative, take the drive, and go chase after
Absolutely,
solutions.
yes.
So initiative and
Yes.
drive is the two things you got to have almost unlimited supply of. But also make sure you give time to yourself because you don't want to have tech burnout. But I always tell people, and you mentioned a great point earlier about how people from mid-career to late career can segue into IT cyber. I always tell everybody the
Mhm.
pool is warm. We need everybody in all perspectives, both young, old, any career come in. The water's warm because that person that was a school principal for 20, 25 years will come in and say, why is this like this? Why is it? Hey, we need someone to point at something so we can look at it and say, you know what? We never saw it that way. All those
Yeah.
perspectives are valid. I often tell people when they say, "Oh, I can't learn," I say, "Can you read and can you comprehend?" And I say this on my podcast all the time. If you can read and you can comprehend, you can do IT cyber. That's what 90% of it is reading stuff and watching videos, learning. And as you said, just be committed, be all in to be a lifelong learner because it's always changing and you'll do just fine. And again, just have that initiative and drive and that'll take you everywhere that you want to go. So thank you for sharing those insights. And because, like I said, if we have any young people watching, please listen to everything she said, take it to heart, and then I'll have her link on LinkedIn or social media handles that she wants to share will be in the description below. Follow her; she's going to do tremendous work in her career for years and years and years to come. And I'm looking so forward to seeing the tremendous work you do. Um, this is so. I have just two more questions before we wrap up the hour. And thank you so much for your time so far. The first question is: a lot of us professionals are really busy with our day jobs, right? We're super busy, and of course, with you with all the other conferences, CTS, and stuff that you do. But we try to make time for those volunteer charities, nonprofits, and things that are doing positive work in the world. So, for example, I donate every year to St. Jude's Children's Cancer Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and I donate to like Wounded Warrior and a couple other charities because of the great positive work they're doing in the world. So, are there any and then whether you give of your money, time, or just want to shine a light on, hey, this is an organization I really believe in their mission, what they're doing in the world. This is an opportunity to shine a light on such an organization.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I feel like there's too many organizations to go into, honestly. But I mean, of
As
course, I
much
want to
time as
shout
you're
out.
willing to share, we will
Yeah.
share and shine the light on them.
Yeah, of course I want to shout out, like Weeses has been incredible. I actually wasn't involved with Weeses until later, until I was like a junior or senior because we didn't have it anywhere near the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, where my college was. I think we had a main like South Dakota chapter, but there wasn't any I guess like more student focused outreach. But thankfully I did have the cyber organization, which is also amazing. I think I already went over that, so I'm not gonna go too far into that. But yeah, additionally, I'm also a really big fan of the St. Jude's Cancer Research because I actually am from Tennessee.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So I've seen the weather there.
What part of Tennessee, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm like 30 minutes from Nashville. Well, I
Is
was.
it?
I
It's
moved
not
here now.
Murfreesboro, is it?
It is Murfreesboro. No way.
I have a childhood friend of mine that lives, or last I knew of him, we haven't talked in years, but his name is oh good, I don't want to drop it. Well, Sean Mayu's his name. So but they're from
Wow.
Murfreesboro and
No
in fact we had their
way.
wedding somewhere in that area. It was like at a plantation house. But yeah, I'm familiar with Murfreesboro. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh my
Small
goodness.
world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's such a small. I feel like especially in cybersecurity, I meet so many. I have so many occurrences like this. I'm actually going back there soon for my sister's wedding in
Okay.
Nashville. It'll be
Oh,
really
okay.
cool.
Nashville's an awesome town. So you mentioned St. Jude's Cancer Research Hospital. Is there another organization you'd like to shine a light on the great work they're doing?
I would say, let me see. I know there's this really cool organization, but I'm trying to think of their name. But they do like food bank stuff, like a lot of
Oh,
like
okay.
really cool
Food
like
banks are
charity projects.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure that all food banks, are also good.
Well, if you
So
remember, give me all the links of those organizations. And folks, I'm going to have all these links to everything we've talked about in the books, and these wonderful
yeah.
organizations will be in the description below. Please take a moment to pause this video, check out a few of those links because they're great organizations doing great work. Plus, also any other resources and learning links, particularly the podcast that she mentioned and the YouTube channels, we'll have them in the description below. So, for my final question, Gwen, and Gwen is not prepared for this one because this was not in the list of questions that she was sent. So
Oh
this one
no.
catches all my guests a little bit off guard, but I'm sure she'll do fine. For all my guests this season, I give them the final word, and you could talk about your favorite cuisine of food, favorite color of the rainbow, favorite place you like to travel, or favorite anything. But the final word is whatever you like to say or talk about. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm very caught up guard. I will say, something you mentioned was traveling, and I would like to mention if there are any more students on here right now, that if you have the chance to study abroad, do it. It is so incredible. I studied abroad in Thailand during my second year, and I will say try to do it as early as possible because, or else specifically plan for it because usually people take like Gen Ed's earlier one, and you want to have those saved to take abroad. So if you're a student, you want to study abroad. I studied abroad in Thailand for 3 months, and it was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. Also, just for context, I'm also half Thai. My dad is Thai, and I still had some very, very, very extended family in Thailand who I was able to meet. So that was another pro for me. But everyone I've ever talked to who studied abroad has said it was, it's crazy because it really like opens your mind, right? Because like right now, I live in the U.S. and it's a very privileged country, and you realize that. when you start visiting, other countries who are not so like, and you start like living among them, I guess, like, and they're not as, you know, as privileged as the U.S. And whether like I went to a lot of the other countries around there. I went to like Vietnam, I went to Indonesia, I went to several of the other countries around there as well, and I really like learned about their culture, and it really helped me see the world from like a different point of view. So if you have the chance to study abroad, which most do, like this program that I did, which has partnerships with schools like all over the country, it was like you just pay your school what you would have paid, and you can also use your student scholarships and everything you have towards it, and then everyone does that, and so then it's an exchange program, so it all like evens out eventually, with everyone
Okay.
just paying what they would have paid. And there's some like that. There's some where it'll have like a set price. I think the one I did actually had a set price and it came out cheaper because it was like not very expensive to study in Thailand
Hmm.
compared to some other places, right? I think like Australia was like super expensive for some reason, but yeah. So depending on where you go, it might be more or less expensive to do whichever route. But definitely talk to your advisor about it if you're a student because it was so much fun, and I think also it really like opens and broadens your mind in a way that you can't really get from like just living in the US. And I think traveling in general is something that can help directly relate back to cybersecurity because you have to have this like out of the box, coming from multiple perspectives mindset when you're looking at a cybersecurity problem. And additionally, it was just a ton of fun and I met some really cool people. So if you can, I would highly recommend studying abroad if you're in college, or if you're not, then just traveling in general. I don't think you will ever regret it. So
Excellent. Well said. Well, thank you so much for being on the Top Cyber Pro podcast.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me.